Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Felicia Lawrence. Tonight we're digging into multiple developments in the Delphi murders investigation, from a possible error early in the investigation to what's next in the case. But let's start tonight with the effort from Richard Allen's lawyers to tear apart every argument made by prosecutors linking Allen to the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German. We spent the last few hours combing through the points they made to try and prove Allen's innocence. So let's get straight to the highlights. They say police didn't contact Allen after Abby and Libby disappeared. Instead, Allen voluntarily talked with investigators about being on the trail that day. Then Allen didn't hear from police again for more than 5 years until about a month ago. They say Allen did not get rid of his car, his guns, or his clothing. He didn't move and just continued to live his normal life. They attacked the so-called unspent bullet, evidence outlined in court documents released this week. They criticized ballistics and its use in court cases, calling it anything but a science. And they point out prosecutors have mentioned there may be another person involved in this case, but there's no mention of other suspects in the court documents. Now, before the probable cause affidavit was released, the Carroll County prosecutor released a statement reassuring the public he has a very solid case. It went on to say, "We strongly believe the evidence shows Richard Allen was involved in the murder of Libby and Abby." And new at 11, Carroll County Sheriff Tobe Lesenby is responding to those comments from Allen's lawyers. He says he feels the court of law is the proper setting to vet the case and says patience and time are needed for all aspects of the case to be brought to light. Emily Longnecker actually took this case to a defense attorney not connected to the investigation. Emily, what's her take on how this would stand up in court?
Well, Felicia, the defense attorney we talked to has been involved in her fair share of murder cases, and she says if the evidence in this probable cause is all the prosecution has against Richard Allen, they're in for an uphill battle. For almost 6 years now, like so many others across Indiana, the country, and even the world, Katie Jackson Lindsay has followed the investigation into the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German.
I have, from the first day.
And like everyone else, the longtime defense attorney and former Marion County prosecutor wondered when an arrest of a suspect would finally come. When it finally did in late October, Jackson Lindsay was anxious to read the charging documents, outlining why investigators believed Richard Allen was their guy. When the release of those documents finally came this week, what Jackson Lindsay read in them, though, wasn't what she expected in a case that has garnered so much interest and attention.
You just expected when the time came, and today was the day, that there would be solid critical evidence, especially considering how much restraint they used in releasing information to the public, and that's just not what we have.
Jackson Lindsay calls the evidence against Allen listed in the affidavit of probable cause circumstantial at best.
In any criminal case, there's direct evidence of the crime and there's circumstantial evidence of the crime. And from my perspective, I don't think there's a lot of direct evidence tying Richard Allen to this crime.
When it comes to the unspent bullet casing, investigators say they found between the girls' bodies that they linked to one of Allen's guns. Jackson Lindsay says as it stands now, that's not enough to prove beyond a reasonable doubt Allen is the killer.
We don't know their cause of death, so we don't know how relevant that actually is, because if we find out sometime later that their cause of death had nothing to do with a firearm, then you wonder why that casing is important to begin with.
Jackson Lindsay also says she expected to read more about how investigators determined the man on the bridge and this voice were definitively Richard Allen.
What I actually expected was someone who could conclusively say that he was the man on the bridge, or some sort of voice analysis that could conclusively tie Allen's voice to the voice that we've heard on the audio recording.
Investigators say at least 4 women on the trail that day described seeing only one man who looked like the man on the bridge around the same time Allen told investigators he was there too. The charging documents also show investigators believe the clothing those witnesses described the man wearing, a blue or black jacket and blue jeans, match clothing Allen said he was wearing that day on the trail. Jackson Lindsay still has questions.
But no one has, at least according to the affidavit, no one has sat down with a photo array and indicated that that person was Allen.
Jackson Lindsay says there could be more evidence not included in the charging documents.
They could be using a lot of restraint to protect the integrity of the investigation or the integrity of the trial.
Even so,
there are just some critical pieces missing that we normally see in a murder case.
As we mentioned, a clerical error may be what kept Richard Allen off police radar for most of the last 6 years. A source confirms to 13 News the error was from an FBI